The Just Transition Center is a new initiative from the global labor movement, the International Trade Union Confederation, which represents over 200 million workers in 163 countries. And what we do is pretty simple. We help unions and their allies get concrete plans for just transition. So the city level, the workplace, sector, country, as here in Scotland. So what I hope is that people will come out of the summit knowing that there's a lot happening on just transition in other countries. They'll have some concrete examples of what's happening, what other people are doing, so that they're going to go and participate in this process with the government and in their workplaces and make Scotland a great example of just transition. I'm excited to be in Scotland when your First Minister is going to speak this afternoon and is going to tell us more about what Scotland's doing on just transition. But I'm also excited because this week the Canadian government announced a national task force on just transition, which is co-chaired by the President of the Canadian Unions and will be responsible for seeing that there's a good just phase out of coal-fired power in Canada by 2030. So that's a big thing. And I'm also excited because a similar process is going on in the Netherlands, where unions, employers, and government and civil society have worked together in social dialogue to produce recommendations for how the whole economy of the Netherlands is going to transition to very low emissions. The government of New Zealand has also committed to just transition and recently announced that they will stop issuing offshore oil and gas licenses, which is a very big thing. But because they're also committing to creating new jobs for oil workers, redeveloping those communities where workers live, the unions are supporting it. So many things are happening, and people see, especially working people, they see that it is possible to have a future with decent jobs, doing something meaningful about climate change, and reducing poverty and inequality, right? Very exciting. I mean, maybe not first and foremost, but really importantly, we would have done enough on climate change so that people are spared the very worst impacts of climate change. So that's a really big ask, right? Because we're not on track. But if we did manage to do that, that would be huge. And so in Scotland, people would be safer from the impacts of climate change. Young people would be working in low and zero emissions jobs. Everyone who can work would have a good job. Secure job with good wages and conditions, but people who can't work for whatever reason, because they're old or they're sick or they're studying or they have children, those people would also be taken care of. Inequality would be reduced in Scotland, and Scotland would be a place where people want to come to study, they want to come to work in Scotland's world-class renewable industries and sustainable agriculture and knowledge and IT sectors. And yeah, I mean, it would be even more than today, a place with big ambitions on making a just and equal society, but also doing everything it can do on climate change. So first, no, of course, enough is not being done, right? Not on inequality. You can just look at the UK or the US or many other developed and developing countries, but also definitely not on climate change. When I come to an event like this, I was very excited to be invited because it's an amazing thing that an all-volunteer team of young people has organized so many other people to give up their Saturday and to come to an event to learn about just transition and climate justice all day long, right? So that is, just as an activist, I am full of admiration for your organizing. The other thing that's exciting is that being in this workshop, walking around, talking to people, I'm so impressed by the engagement, the enthusiasm, all of the knowledge that's already in the room. And that makes me feel pretty good, right? But there are lots of other people working on this. So I'm part of a bigger movement.